What you're about to see is the type of underground facility that I delivered to in Kansas City, Missouri, Kansas City, Kansas borderline. And that's where I was headed to when I left on April 19th, 2019, before I got diverted to Independence, Missouri. Going into this and out of this food delivery underground facility, there are spikes that pop your tires, and you have to go down the road to get your admittance badge, a RFID, and then come back up to the entrance and use that badge to get in the gate. And then they drop the tire spikes. There are tire spikes pointing both directions to stop anyone from coming in and stop anyone from going out. It's the only place I've ever delivered food where this type of tire spikes were there.
And he was like, "This is crazy." He was like, "I've never seen anything like this." He goes,
"This is exactly like where I delivered. See the rock pillars sticking up everywhere that hold the roof up? These rock pillars." And I didn't even wander around too much. I was there for like an hour getting unloaded. But as soon as I walked like around the corner and I saw that this is one big underground maze, I could get lost really easy. I decided not to go exploring too much further. One guy that was there delivering alongside me said, "I ain't never seen nothing like this." Another guy said, "Oh yeah, I've been to 2 or 3 different places like this. Right here in this area, it's like a limestone, so it's easy to excavate." And they say, "Oh, we do this for underground food storage facilities because then it's 56 degrees underground all the time. And it's cheaper for keeping the cold food storage cold," but that's not why they do it. And so I would say this is part of Infragard, because like I said, the guy next to me who said, "I've never seen anything like this," he said, "I've been driving truck and delivering cold food storage for 20 years, and I've never seen anything like this." And the other guy said, "I've been to multiple locations in this general area that are exactly like this." And their statement that it's, are we playing here? Yeah. The statement that it's all because it's cheaper to keep the cold food cold by building this underground facility where underground it's like 56 degrees all the time. That doesn't seem to be the whole reason when you see there's tire popping spikes. Like secured Infragard was a partnership started after 9/11 between the private sector and the public sector, between the government and private companies, in order to protect the critical infrastructure, thus the term Infragard. Whether it's the electricity or the food distribution or airline travel, any major artery of our infrastructure that might be attacked by someone trying to disable the country in a type of attack like we saw on 9/11 was then protected through these cooperative partnerships between the government and private companies that tend to these parts of our infrastructure. So a facility like this is probably funded partially by taxpayer dollars, and it's just regular operated by the mainstream food distribution warehouses that I would deliver to in all my other deliveries and pickups, except in this underground facility where the extra accommodations like the tire popping spikes and all the underground excavation, that part is provided by taxpayer dollars. So the private company cooperates with the government as part of this critical infrastructure guard of our food supply. Facility has at the entrance, no other place that I ever delivered to has tire popping spikes. And you cannot see this facility from above ground. It's on a prairie, flatland area. So even if you have binoculars looking as far as you can in every direction, you don't see anything above ground. You take a small ravine that cuts down in and drive in the side of a rock wall to get in here. And when I was leaving, I made some mental notes, some markers of landmarkers. One of them was a water tower. I knew I was very near the Kansas City, Missouri borderline, and that the Mormon Temple, Kansas City Mormon Temple, was near. And I don't remember what I thought near was, within a mile or two, 5 miles. This is where I was headed when I left April 19th, 2019. And so here in a second, I'm going to talk about this video titled Loading the Jump Program, Everyone Fails the First Try. I mentioned it in one of the other ones. I think Mormons, Masons, and Dragons. I mentioned that video and include a link in the description. And that's why only 65 people watched that and 800 views below it, 1.1 thousand views above it, 65 views on the video titled Loading the Jump Program, where I talk about the people that I met in Independence, Missouri, that proved to me the spirit that led me there is not just in my head, and that these people were part of a network of people that were coordinating and cooperating with the same spirit that led me there, which proved to me I ended up where I was supposed to be. When I left, it was with the urgency of knowing that I was headed in that general direction toward this underground facility that I don't even know where it is specifically, but I was given the impulse and the prompting to head that direction. And I told people when I made those videos, April 19th, 2019, fill up your gas tank, head east, let's go. It's time. I don't even know if we have 24 hours. That was the urgency with which I was given the prompting through the spirit, the impulse, and through my intuition. I was given this guidance. I was led to go there with the idea that that's what time it is, that it's time to utilize a facility the likes of which that I had delivered to on the Kansas City, Missouri borderline, with the tire popping spikes in the underground food storage facility. And then when I was about three quarters the way there, I don't remember exactly how far I was on my trip, I told people, fill up your gas tank, empty your bank account, rack up your credit card, let's go. It's time. This is what time it is. One person did end up going to the Mormon Temple in Kansas City because I told them that was approximately where I was going, to this facility that was near that Mormon Temple. And I have a very strong kinship with the original spirit that led the Mormons that no longer exists within those institutions. You see those dragons on the side of the temple or the city and county building over there? That's where Brigham Young rolled up and said, this is the place. And they established this Salt Lake City. Well, that building was probably already there. But the spirit of the early Mormons was that of revolutionaries and rebels. The good slaves love the good book. A rebel loves a cause. And those Mormons that got persecuted out of Independence, Missouri, when they went to Salt Lake City, were being persecuted by good Christians who said, those Mormons, they're the devil. And Mormons wouldn't stand down and just go with the flow of whatever everyone in the community says, like they do now, when the institution now told their missionaries to take the vax. In order that you can be a missionary and go on your mission, you must take the roll-up-your-sleever. That was a fashion trend. The spirit that inspired the original Mormons that settled this valley has left the building and been replaced by a go along to get along with the latest fashion trend, because at the time they were willing to stand their ground for their beliefs and die for what they believed in and live for what they believed in, like they had experiences that override everything these good Christians have to say. Because you see, in Mormonism, they say that bite of the apple in the Garden of Eden wasn't the downfall of man. That was a gift and a blessing, not a curse upon mankind. There is no greater difference that you could have. That is the fundamental basis of Christianity, was that Garden of Eden story. And when the Mormons say, we feel the exact opposite way about it, that bite of the apple was a gift and a blessing, not the curse and the downfall of mankind. Well, then of course the Christians are going to say, oh, these guys are evil, they're devil worshippers, let's get out our torches and pitchforks and burn them at the stake. But they didn't back down and say, oh, okay, you're right, we'll just roll up our sleeve, bend over, and take it. They stood for what they believed in, and that original spirit that existed in the Mormon church no longer exists. They're not willing to stand for what they believe in. They told their missionaries, you want to be a missionary, you got to roll up your sleeve. That is the dream of a young man coming up in the Mormon community and culture, is to be a missionary, because after you get back off your mission, the girls are lined up waiting to marry you. And they all want to be the first to get there, get a date with you and give you a warm welcome and a homecoming off your mission. So this is what young men grow up dreaming about as a young man in the culture of Mormonism these days. And the institution, the leadership at the head of the institutions told them, go ahead, roll up your sleeve if you want to follow through with what you've been preparing for your whole life. Because the fashion trend and the current cultural trend of the day is this roll up your sleeve thing. The original Mormons weren't go along to get along with whatever the culture and the community around them insisted that they go along and get along with. That spirit that led the Mormons then no longer inhabits the institution's leadership positions now. Anyway, when I went on this dry run, which I believe that's what it was training, and it was a proving ground, and it was a dry run, and that's what training is for. You train in the environment that you're actually going to have to be tested in when you go and real time, not just a dry run. If you're going to be fighting battle in a cold climate, you practice, you train in cold climate. If you're going to be fighting in a desert, you practice and train in a desert. And my experience when I received that prompting and was given the calling, which was proven to me that it was a calling by the people that I met on the other end of that trip. When I was redirected from going generally toward the Kansas City, Missouri borderline to this underground food storage facility, because this is the end of this human era, and that's what time it is, I was redirected to Independence, Missouri, because that's where Mormons go in the end days. Those Latter-day Saints return to Independence. That's what occurred to me when I was 3/4 of the way there. And then when I got to Independence and these people interacted with me and spoke with me the way that they did, it proved to me this calling that I received was not all in my head. There was a network of people there as receptionists, as the welcoming committee that told me, yeah, we call ourselves kindred, and everyone over there at the camp, they're all kindred. And another thing Cue Ball told me was that Jesus was just like us. He was a partier. He had the sex, drugs, rock and roll, and all the life experiences that we've all had. Not that story you've been told. And I was just like, yeah, I know, I get it. I've received a lot of this understanding on my way during the last, little while. So in this video, Loading the Jump Program, Everyone Fails the First Try, I speak a bit more about things that I remember in these conversations that I had with Cue Ball and ATM and the ladies of Elysium. Even the cops who I said, I'm here for a wedding. I'm with the father of the bride and it's going to be a star-spangled celebration, knew that I was speaking in tongues. The locksmith who I said, hey, I heard you're the guys I can trust with the keys to my house. I just joined God's army and I'm out getting my marching orders, interacted with me in ways that proved to me these aren't normal people. Yeah, he said, oh yeah? God's army did something for a friend of mine once. How about we go inside here and see if we can get you the parts you need? But particularly Cue Ball and ATM, Cue Ball referred to himself as my mentor, saying that during his awakening, he referred to himself as my mentor using that word, not just generally about the concept of mentor, specifically using the word mentor, referring to someone who walked him through his awakening process, using the word mentor, and then saying, and he was to me, I guess what I am to you now. He had a guy that kind of showed him the ropes and walked him through the process, and he said, that guy is to me kind of like what I am to you now, I guess. Referring to himself as my mentor as he had a mentor. This proves that spirit that led me, that called me, isn't just in my head, when there was a group of people that are part of a network on the other end that were there to receive me like the welcoming committee. The girls of Elysium said, "Cute ain't got nothing to do with it. Baby, I just want to know what make you happy. You ain't got to worry about them kids. We got the kids." No, I got to go back and get some of these kids to the garden. Don't worry about it, baby. I got the kids. These people that met me on the other end of this trip prove I ended up right where I was supposed to be, and that the calling wasn't just a delusion or a hallucination in my head. But when I left, and it was from those who did the calling, they now know what they can expect out of me. I put everything into it and didn't hold anything in reserve. I put it all on the line. Needed to withhold nothing. I knew this was it. So for that training that I got, next time it happens, I'll know what I'm experiencing when the spirit gets turned up to 11. I'll know that it's not just in my head, because I met people on the other end of this experience, on the other end of this journey, last time I received a calling, that proved to me that they're part of a network that is orchestrating and coordinating these operations of the spirit that call people. I met someone along the way who was also on the same journey. And when I asked him, "Where are you going?" he looked up at the sky and said, I don't know. He was on the same journey as I was. So in this video, Loading the Jump program, I speak a little bit more about these people that I met when I got there to Independence, and the conversations that we had with each other. And only 65 people watch that. Those are the people that are really like, the Snyder University graduates who recognize this isn't just a YouTube channel. I'm performing a recruitment operation. I'm an ambassador of sorts. And those who are not just here for entertainment and amusement are those 65 people that watched. And that's still a lot of people. When we're gathering souls, one is a huge number. So that's going to be UNL1. I'm going to add to the title of that video, Loading the Jump program, UNL1, because it's unlisted. Only way those 65 people accessed that video was because they clicked the link that was in the description in the pinned comment of Mormons, Masons, and Dragons. So one day I might make UNL2 and put it as a link in the description in the pinned comment of UNL1, Loading the Jump program. The only way you could get to UNL2 is to click on UNL1. And then in the description of UNL1 is a link to UNL2. And the only way you can get to UNL1 is to click the link in the description in the pinned comment of Mormons, Masons, and Dragons, and so on and so forth. I create a Russian nesting doll, and one day you might hear I loaded up UNL3, UNL4, and only the people that are actually recognizing and participating in what's really going on here, not just here for entertainment and amusement, will end up receiving that offer that, if shunned, means you might as well be walking on the sun. Next time I say fill up your gas tank, empty your bank account, rack up your credit card, there'll be some people who do. And this is how I will filter them out, through a process of self-selection. You decide whether or not you're up for it and ready to come along for the ride. You see, in this video that I just showed you, starting out this video where I showed you the underground facility, that was a piece from JWTV's video that he put out today, and they're talking about how in the next couple months it's going down. When I received the calling that I did, that was back in April of 2019. And when I was saying this is it, this is the end of this era of human existence, everyone was like, "Dude, you're tripping. It's not the end of the world. What are you tripping on?" These days, people see that underground facility and know that that might be a really good thing to have access to, because now's the time, and we're expecting that it's going to go down real soon. Come on, baby, take a chance with us and meet me at the back of the blue bus, or it hurts to set you free, but you'll never follow me. Can you picture what will be so limitless and free when you're desperately in need of some stranger's hand in a desperate land? We're there. In 2019, we were nowhere close. People hadn't even heard of the C-19 operation yet. So don't delay. That's the impulse I was given. That was the prompting I was given. Don't delay. Act now. Load up all the valuables you have. Get them in your car and start headed east on I-80 instead of I-70. It's straighter and it's flatter. And if you only have a half a tank, leave now. God will meet you halfway with the other half of the tank. That was the urgency with which I received my calling, and I went. So now they know what they can expect out of me. I know what to expect when it's really go time because of the training that I've been through. And I know what it feels like to have the spirit cranked up to 11. And I know that there is a real network of people that are also associated with this spirit, with this calling. And they met me on the other end, which proved to me that the spirit that called me is not just between my two ears. God works in mysterious ways, and next time I give out that invitation, that the offer that if shunned means you might as well be walking on the sun, there'll be some people who receive it. Because I came back to get some kids to the garden. She insisted I come with her and that she's got it taken care of. I insisted on coming back. Speaking of those Mormons and those Masons and those dragons, that reminds me, I went to an open house night at the Masonic Lodge in Salt Lake, at the Masonic Temple. Some Masonic lodges are just a little square building. This is a Masonic temple. And it was open house night to the public to demystify some of the things about Masons. And so they give you a guided tour through each part of the building. See this part over here, Latter-day Illumination, over there on the left, picture of what I believe is probably Brigham Young. So during this tour, while the tour guide is taking us through different sections of the building and answering any questions anyone has, I ask, is it true that Joseph Smith and Brigham Young were both Freemasons? And he says, why, yes, high-level 33rd degree Masons. And the whole room breaks into a murmur. That was the surprising part. It's a Masonic temple. Everyone in there has some knowledge and understanding about Masons. It's in the middle of Salt Lake City, Utah. Everyone in there has some sort of knowledge and understanding and interest about Mormons. Yet it was like no one in the room knew that Joseph Smith and Brigham Young were both Masons. It was like everyone in the room turned to the person left to him, to the side of him, and said, did you hear that? Did you know that? I didn't know that. Did you know that? The whole room broke into a murmur, like everyone turned to the person next to him and started whispering. Like that was news to everyone in the room. My point here is, whether it's Mormons being subverted and the spirit that led them no longer does, or the Masons, you know that any party can be hijacked and co-opted. Just like any political party on any given issue used to stand for the exact opposite, take the exact opposite stance on just about any given issue. Democrats and Republicans swap sides on every issue every couple of generations. If you know anything about politics, the same can be true for religions or any other institution like the Masons or the Mormons. And why is it that everyone has been programmed with fear and loathing of the Masons? So when I say that there's a huge overlap between Mormons and Masons, most people don't recognize the degree to which that overlap actually exists. I'm just going to cruise through these, and then you can rewind it and pause it and read for yourself what these things say. You'll see that some of it is word for word. Overlap in their rituals, in their secrecy oaths. Here's where it starts, word for word in their rituals. And people have been indoctrinated with lots and lots of fear about Masons. But if you're to judge people by their fruits, the Mormons create communities that are full of people that are worth living with, which creates a world that is worth living in. When you recognize how much overlap there really is between these two groups, should make you a little less fearful of the Masons, or a lot more fearful of the Mormons, because they are, in fact, one and the same. It's like Mormonism is the public relations branch. But I didn't mention, you'll see if you rewind and pause, Masonry on the left, Mormonism on the right, in these comparisons here, where much of it is actually word for word. But essentially, Mormonism is just the public relations division of Masonry. There was a time when every Mormon male of age was required to join a lodge, and I don't know if it was a formality or if it was just a common practice of the culture. There was even time when Masonic lodges were disallowing the Mormons because they would show up and essentially flood the lodge, and because the Mormons work as a group in unison, it would basically turn the lodge into a Mormon lodge. So there was a while in some areas where the Mormons were actually disallowed from joining a lodge because they would show up and overwhelm the electorate, I guess, the constituency of the lodge, and they act in unison with a collective purpose, and so thus they then redirect the lodge because of the percentage of them that would show up and join the lodge. My point here is that when I say Mormons and Masons are pretty much the same thing, word for word, in their secrecy oaths, including the penalties about. And so does this, when you're judging a community of people, judging a religion not by its doctrine and its dogma and the details of their script, but the actual fruits of the community that they produce. In my opinion, there is no better community than the Mormons. I've been all around the country, gotten a little sample of just about every pocket of culture that exists within the United States. And there is no more preferable community of people to live with, a world worth living in, full of people that are worth living with, than the Mormons. So why have we been so indoctrinated about the Masons? You might want to seriously question this. Here, they say in conclusion, this proves that Joseph Smith didn't really get this, secret ritual through some sort of divine means, but it was just a carbon copy of the Masonic rituals. In my last video where it was showing that preacher who says that Jesus is the devil, it's not the first time I've had these sentiments. In fact, in much of those videos around April 19th, 2019, I spoke of this inversion, that Jesus and Satan, they're brothers, right? Just like Enki and Enlil, and this two brothers is a archetype that runs through many religions, and that it has been inverted. One of them got the bad rap